This Three Beards Media podcast is sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company. When Rob and Chrissy Taylor started following the Kentucky Bourbon Trail in 2012, they fell in love with not only bourbon, but the entire distilling process. Just 8 short years later, in 2020, Revelton Distilling Company was opened, offering an entire family of products including vodka, gin, whiskey, and Revelton Shine. Come visit the tasting room at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, where you can sample one of their many spirits, including 4 gold medal winners. Can't make it to Osceola today? Not a problem, as you can pick some up at your local Hy-Vee or Fairway grocery stores. Follow Revelton Distilling on Twitter or Instagram at ReveltonDC or their website www.reveltondistilling.com.
This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes, and if you're not down with that, we got 3 words for you. Like the podcast. Nailed it!
Would you like to sample some of my nuts?
Hello and welcome back to yet again another edition of Old Man Strength, a podcast of Three Beards Media and brought to you by Revelton Distilling Company. I am Tim Johnson, joined as always by Chris Shipley. Chris, how are we doing this evening?
We're doing well. We're 2-0. We beat Iowa. Everybody's having a hissy fit on that side. Although, the entire week, somehow the local media has forgot that Iowa State won that game because all I've heard all week is Iowa and Brian Ferentz and their terrible offense. So,
this is one of those times where I'm very glad that I don't live in central Iowa, up here where, I think I've said this on the pod before. I was once at a Gopher football game against Air Force, and in the middle of the game, the crowd broke out into a chant of "Who hates Iowa? We hate Iowa." So I don't live I don't live in an area where the Cy-Hawk rivalry matters at all. I certainly feel like the vitriol of Cy-Hawk Twitter this year has been especially sharp. And I don't know what to attribute any of that to any of the. I mean, let's not pretend like that Cy-Hawk game was a pretty game for anybody to watch. There were a lot of mistakes, a lot of ugly things. No one loves to see a game where there are 3 entire scores the entire game. It wasn't like things were pretty, but boy, this year seems like people are just ready to go off on anything.
I said at one point we were only down by 4. We had 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions, 2 block punts, and I was like, they're just dangling the hope right in front of me, just dangling it. I just assumed they'd cut my throat and be done with it because this is torture. But I did say I finally told somebody, I said, look, I made one comment. The entire week I've made one comment about Iowa, and I got hammered by this guy. And I was like, you know what? I ate shit for 6 years while we lost for 6 years in a row. And I sat here and took everybody's shit because we lost. And that's what happens when you lose. I post one thing and everybody's losing their mind. So everybody can just back off, accept your lumps a little bit, and move on.
Well, we've had so much fun being comrades and making fun of Nebraska. I was kind of hoping some of that middle ground we all found was going to last a little bit longer, especially because the same weekend Nebraska did lose and then immediately fired their coach. So I kind of thought, hey, we can all
bask in the glow of
Cyclone Hawkeye. At the end of the day, none of us are Huskers. So
for sure.
That national brand of Nebraska football I have to get that dig in one more time. Anyway, this is not just a Cyhawk podcast. Although our guest this evening, our returning guest this evening, would be very more than happy to share a lot of thoughts on that. So, Chris, as always, I will let you introduce our guest.
Well, like you said, returning guest, funny as it was, about this time last year, it was right before the Iowa State game. We had a little Cyhawk podcast, and Megatron at Megs_ISU from Twitter joined us, and she is gracious enough to join us again tonight, which personally I think is just another excuse for her to be able to have a drink in the middle of the week. But Meg, thanks for hopping on and chatting with us again.
Oh, I'm happy to be back. Thank you so much. This is fun. I've been really looking forward to talking to you guys.
Yeah, Megan, I have to get this out of the way right now. It's a confession. Chris and I were texting about this episode, and I accidentally, I swear to God, it was an autocorrect failure. It was not me.
No.
I referred to you as meh. So
yeah, because that sounds exactly like Meg.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually fantastic. I like that a lot. I had a friend who was putting my name in his phone, and he swears it was an autocorrect. He dropped the G and it just said mean.
Yeah,
and he left it that way because he thought it was hilarious. So
there's something about your name or your person. I don't know what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm mean and I'm a little meh.
My old boss put me in hers as Crid, and she was like, it's just too hard to go back in and change it. So for like 7 years, that's what I was in her phone.
Crid.
I was like, well, at least it's a step up, because I don't think half the team's even programmed in your phone. You just and look at the conversation and figure out who it was that texted you. So
no, I love it. Well, Megan, again, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome back to Old Man Strength, especially given that you are fresh into a new school year. So we very much appreciate you taking time.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, day 17 today. So
that's usually what teachers do. They count the days until each upcoming break, right? And
no, actually, I don't feel that way about teaching at all. I honestly, I adore what I do. I look forward to every day, but we keep track of the days in school, and it's like our big, we're building up to 100, and we're really building some number sense. And so I always know what day of school it is because we keep track every single day. So
fair enough. Well, how is this year going with the kids?
It's going really, really well. I'm having a really good year. Yeah, it's a good little group of kiddos. I only have 14 kids.
Oh, wow.
Which is outstanding. I work in a really small rural school. And so our numbers are not, it kind of depends on the grade, on the particular makeup of whatever the grade happens to have. I've had pretty big classes where I've been the only section, depending on, if we have enough to split. And the other section of first grade this year has 15 and I have 14, and 29 in one first grade classroom would be a lot. So I'm glad they decided to keep it as 2. Yeah, we're off to a really great start. It's been a great beginning of the year. And I'm always amazed at how quickly they fall into routines and are just kind of feels like we've been there for months. So
how long have you been teaching?
This is my 18th year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow. I've been there a long time. I not all of that was in first grade. My first year I was hired, I taught 5th grade, and the school went through some big changes that year. Like a lot of small schools in Iowa have dealt with needing to do some whole grade sharing, and kind of combining, there's so many schools that have 5 initials that are all coming together to one school.
Yeah. I was joking the other day with my dad about how there's MFL Monona Marmac, and I'm like, what a ridiculous school name to have all of that. And that's been around that's been like that for 30 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So right now, yeah, the district I teach in has like an overarching district name, but then it can get really confusing when you start thinking about what town has which school and where kids are going to go. And, it's just, it's not a problem that I see going away anytime soon. Um, so with all of that chaos in that first year of teaching, I actually got a pink slip that first year. Like I was going to be let go because I was brand new. I was low man on the totem pole. Right or wrong, that's just the way that they do it. They cut the new guy. And enough people took early retirement or had found jobs elsewhere that I actually got to stay. And then I switched to first grade. And I did that for several years. And then I actually looped with a class one year. So I had the kids in first grade and then I moved with them to second grade. Like it just kind of worked out that they needed a second grade teacher in that position. And it just, sometimes the numbers just work that way. And so then I taught second grade for a couple of years. And then now I'm back. I've been back in first grade for quite a while. So most of the time I've taught first grade while I've been there.
It's kind of funny how things have so much changed and evolved. Stacy, my wife's been in the district here in Des Moines for 26 years, I think. And kind of the same deal. She came in and started as a sub before she got put on long term. And then here this year, Caitlin gets hired. She's a first grade teacher. So,
awesome. Good for her.
Yeah, she's first grade. So, and her teaching partner is her best friend that she graduated with. So they're both starting first grade together in the same school.
Gosh, that's so great.
And the district here is, I think, short 90 teachers. I mean, they would take, as many as they could. So it's funny how that profession, I think a lot of people have moved out of there. There's a gentleman that started my work. He worked, I think he's been there 3 weeks. He was a special ed teacher here outside of the district for years. And he just up and moved and decided to make a career change.
Like Chris actually had a very similar experience to you in that, like, he had third grade with his third grade teacher and he looped right back around. And the very next year he had that same teacher for third grade again. It was fine.
Jesus Christ. I have not gotten enough alcohol yet for this.
Well, pick up the pace, Christopher.
No,
I knew it was coming and it still made me laugh.
I know, right? Oh, the gang's back together. How exciting is this?
I'm nothing if not predictable.
I got roasted the last time you two were on this.
No, I know.
Well, my comments and my ideas have only gotten better since then. So,
Certainly.
All right, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, I'm really excited. My daughter just started second grade, and she just has a lot of enthusiasm. I think right now, especially these first couple of weeks are when kids are really excited. So, a lot of that wanes after another month or two into the school year. But tired. Well, no, I get it. What is this, Thursday? And my enthusiasm for this week has waned. So
it waned on Monday afternoon.
Yeah.
Oh, this month can end at any time. I am not a Green Day fan.
I would imagine, like, you probably in your job, you probably don't really have like a Monday, Friday, right? Does your schedule look kind of crazy or not really?
The nice thing about in brewing is that you can kind of do that, but yeah, there is a certain extent where you just have to do, it sounds kind of silly to say, but beer is essentially farming yeast, right? And so you're farming animals. They're just little tiny microscopic animals that are trying to make that wort into beer. And so you do have to kind of adjust based off of whatever is going on. I'm lucky enough our brewery is small that we can make some of those decisions. Previous breweries I was at, if I had to go, and I did. But also technology has been nice. Like I can't work from home, right? You can't brew from home, but I can certainly change the temperature of a tank from home. I can certainly, make sure that the pump is off or what else is going on from home, which is something that, used to not be able to happen at all. But I don't have this sit in a basement like Chris does, job where I can do all of that, right?
I still go to the office. I went to the office 3 times this week, so I don't know what to say. I might be the only one. Half the time I go in there, there's nobody in there. But
Get him a trophy.
I know, right? I got a trophy. I do.
You mostly work from home then? You're mostly at home?
My job, actually, it's been nice, is that it's pretty much open. There's no required time in the office. There's no required time to be home. You can pick and choose as you want. So there's been days where I've went in and worked, and then something's come up and I've left at lunch and came home and finished out the day in the afternoon. So I posted the other day, this is the 5-year anniversary in a couple of days of me getting diagnosed with cancer. And things have really been blessed for me, but one of them definitely is this new job. The freedom that they give me and the responsibility that they give me to make my own decisions and make my own plans and campaigns and things like that, and allow me to nurture that and produce it into something, is not something I thought I would ever be anywhere. So
yeah,
along with that, the freedom that they give you to work where you need and do what you got to do and things like that is just, it's, I think, as terrible as COVID was, I think COVID opened up a lot of avenues for companies to realize how important life balance is for their employees.
right.
Some companies did not, some companies have.
Yeah.
What's that?
Maybe just that it's more possible than
Yes. Yeah, that they've realized that it's possible. Right. But I think in the corporate world anyways, I've seen a big push for, I would say, them making sure that you're taking a good balance of work and now that certainly depends on the culture that you're working in and the company that you're working in and things like that. I don't know that every company obviously is like that, but that's just what I've seen at this particular company.
Well, good. I'm glad it's been good for you.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I feel like the work-life balance sometimes gets a lot of lip service, but then you're being asked to do things that completely contradict that.
Oh yeah,
that does happen. Absolutely,
make
yeah.
time for family, but you have 15 minutes for lunch today.
This whole idea that we've heard a lot lately about quiet quitting. Oh, you mean just only doing what you pay me to do and not doing more? The idea that in our culture, corporate America is so ingrained that we quiet quit rather than or just do what we're paid to do is a little. I mean, it's the dirty secret about. I remember the very first time I got a salary job, and people were like, "Oh, that's the goal, is to get a salary job." And this was 20 whatever years ago, and it was like, well, no, that just means you don't get paid for all the other bullshit that you do. And I think people are starting to make some choices for themselves because they've realized that when you enter a pseudo apocalypse like we did during the pandemic, that maybe people reevaluate what is important to them. I certainly did. And I didn't even work halfway through the pandemic because I was mostly just trying to be home so my daughter could do distance learning. So she couldn't really do that from a brewery. It's not a safe space to do that from, but
that's disappointing.
Meg's like, maybe I could teach from a brewery.
Yeah,
That'd be
all to get vaccinated, please.
So Meg, the last time we had you on was about the Cyhawk game. Is that correct, Chris? Am I remembering this correctly?
Yeah, her and Bill Blank. Yep.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's right, with Bill. Oh, yeah. Everything has been a little bit different about going into that game, but everything else. Obviously, Iowa State has had a very different team than they had last year. Different weapons, brand new quarterback, brand new running back, brand new everything. What were your expectations going into that game?
Into this one this year?
Yeah.
People are going to think I'm full of shit.
Okay.
But I always am, was very optimistic.
I was going to say, fatally optimistic.
No, truly, I am. I know, and I don't want to sound like a Pollyanna, and that's not the goal, but I felt really good about it. Like, I don't know, someone like offered to like place a wager. Like our football coach at the school I teach is a huge Hawkeye fan, and he was like, "Let's put money on it," and I was like, "No, that's dumb," which maybe makes it seem like I wasn't. But it's more like I just work really hard for my money, and I don't wager on things, but I don't know. I felt really good. I didn't feel really very nervous. Last season, the 21 game, I like didn't sleep the night before. I was kind of a wreck. Like, I think because the expectations for that team in that season were sky high.
Yeah.
And coming off the best season that Iowa State football had ever had, that I was really uncomfortable with that. And I don't know if it's just that it was just inexperience with that feeling or what, but 21's game, I was really quite nervous, and I just felt excited. I kind of liked that it wasn't a home game and I could really take it in. Sometimes I feel like when I'm there, just all of the excitement and, and having game day there changes everything too. But
yeah.
That I could just kind of take in the game with some friends. I don't know. I felt really good about it. Even when we were down, I thought, I think we're going to pull this out. Like, Xavier Hutchinson is bound to catch a touchdown. And I totally called it. Like,
yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
I did the Nostradamus thing that I do sometimes.
Hey, I called Iowa's 2 safeties in the first game. I'm not even kidding. I made it
really?
Because I thought I was joking. I literally thought I was joking. I said this game is going to be boring. Iowa is going to score like nothing but safeties. It's going to be like a 6-2 baseball score game, is what I said.
Dude.
So I was not really
close.
that far off. Yeah.
Yeah. So I felt good. I don't think I'm in the minority here. Going into a season with lower expectations, much like our men's basketball season last year, it's just a nice surprise. Like, when they do great, you're like, well, look at that. We got something going on here, like Hunter Deckers can do some stuff. Like, that's really nice to see. Was also unknown, and everyone was just kind of speculating, and now we have some evidence that he's pretty damn good. So
yeah, I don't think they've talked near enough. I mean, I know it's just one drive, but I don't know that they've talked enough about the circumstances in regards to that drive. You're at the 1 yard line. You've already had 4 turnovers as a team at that point. 5, sorry. You've had 5 turnovers at that point. You're at the 1. It's your first road game as a starter in a hostile environment.
Super hostile.
And you drive that team 99 yards, calm, collected, making throws, and then throwing that strike to X. That was 4th year, 5th year senior type of stuff. You know what I mean?
I felt like I could feel like the collective like relaxing of the shoulders of Iowa State fans after that happened. Like, right. Okay. Like, look at that. He can do it. I also think, and this is purely my opinion, I think Hunter Deckers looks more comfortable with the football in his hand than Brock Purdy ever did.
You know what? That's a hot take, but I'm gonna agree with you. I feel like I don't know if it's more comfortable. What I would say is that Brock felt like he had to make a quick decision, and I think Hunter shows more patience. Mm-hmm. Maybe it doesn't necessarily mean he's making the right decisions. He made certainly a boneheaded throw. The second pick isn't on him, but the first one certainly was, and his pick against SEMO, I think, was also just kind of an impulsive throw he shouldn't have made or whatever. But I think I give him all the patience in the world because he is so young, right?
Absolutely. Right. I think both of those are to be expected.
Yeah, exactly.
I do think that he really kept a cool head when those things happened too, which really nice to see, because I think that speaks volumes about just his mental game, that he wasn't so thrown that then he was making bigger mistakes, which has happened in the past, like with this Iowa State team. With
Oh yeah, absolutely.
like Brock Purdy would get flustered, and then he would double down on the mistake.
He would try too hard to make up for his mistake, right? Whereas Hunter Deckers, I would agree. That was one thing I said to my friend Bill, is I was like, I appreciate that he has such a short-term memory.
Yeah,
on those things, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
it's also nice to see Jarrell come into his own as well. I think his moment arrived in SEMO with that stutter step stop and then move. I mean, that was legit that was a good move. And then for him to, I mean, they were able to run the ball against Iowa again, and that's the other thing. Iowa's vaunted defense, which I'm not taking anything away from their defense. It's a legit championship style defense. And again, to be able to drive and run the ball and make those throws and so on and take that drive. At that point, once we scored, I wasn't really worried about their offense. But I was worried more there on that last drive that we were going to play soft and not play a way to stop them rather than to just kind of try to bleed the clock. That's what made me nervous at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are times where Haycock gets a little bit Wally Burnham, bend don't break. Sometimes in tight games like that's where I start to get a little bit worried. It's not so much a step on the throat; it's just that trying to not make a mistake, which ends up just letting people dink and dunk type of thing. I mean, I'm certainly probably one of Tom Manning's biggest critics, and I did not like a lot of the decisions made in that game. I certainly didn't like going with a running play with the quarterback under shotgun would what should have been a QB sneak right there on the one. Like there are certainly things I think were challenges, but that 99-yard touchdown drive certainly made me shut up. And then the way that the defense responded right after that made me feel like I was pretty dumb. There's a reason I'm brewing beer and not coaching college football. I will go ahead and admit that right now.
That's the only reason. I just like to point out that we do actually have a QB under center quarterback sneak play in the playbook, because I saw it when we were on the opposite side and we were deep in our own end zone and had to get it out of the end zone.
Absolutely. It should have happened right there on the one. That one still will sting, but it's not going to sting that much because the end of the game. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I hope you're right that Iowa's defense, I hope this year that they are as good as they typically are and as good as they think they are. Because we were able to drive down and score on that. You hope that was against a defense that knew what they were doing. Like, yeah, that's a really good test for that team. So
we'll see.
I was very happy.
It was a very weird weekend in college football, though.
Mm-hmm.
You had A&M losing, you had Notre Dame losing, you had Wisconsin losing, you had, not that anyone is surprised Nebraska lost, but you did have a couple of top 10 upsets. You saw Notre Dame, who shouldn't have been in the top 10 anyway, but drop from 9 to clear out right after that week, right? Like you saw some Baylor losing, right?
Kansas beat West Virginia.
Yeah, that boy.
Kansas might be scary good.
Like a weird weekend, or does it just speak to the fact that like preseason numbers are kind of garbage?
Maybe, but like you said, Kansas beating West Virginia is not preseason numbers. That's some weird,
some voodoo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's definitely something going on, but I don't know. I think more to come for the college football season. What are you looking forward to as the rest of the college football season goes on?
I'm excited to tailgate this weekend. I'm just very I'm very optimistic. I'm not even cautiously optimistic. I'm just excited. Like, I think they're going to do good things. I think we're going to get to a bowl game. I think we're going to be really pleased with how this first year goes. And I think the thing I'm most excited about is that just doesn't feel abnormal anymore.
Right.
Like having a winning season and
Right.
having a team that you have some confidence in. That, I mean, that feels really good. That feels really nice.
Yeah, like Iowa State got 4 votes and both the coaches in the AP poll this past week, and that didn't feel weird or out of the ordinary or whatever. And 20 years ago, we would have been losing our minds about something like that. So
Yep,
for sure. Well, Mike, we're gonna go ahead and take a quick break. We're gonna grab a word from our sponsor, Revelton Distilling Company, and then we will come back. And when we get back, I kind of want to switch gears, maybe get off of sports, and kind of give you a little bit more.
Sing? Are we going to sing karaoke?
We're gonna sing some yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I will bust out some Carrie Underwood if you want.
Oh no, Carrie Underwood. Oh,
I'd like to thank you all for listening to the last episode of Old Man Strength. It's been a good run, and I apologize.
I was really gonna troll Tim and say something like The Climb by
I think now is a good time to catch a word from our sponsor, Revelton Distilling Company.
It's fall, it's football, and no better time to celebrate those victories or soothe away those losses like a drink from Revelton Distilling Company. Imagine a cool, crisp Saturday morning at your tailgate, friends and family enjoying a quick morning cup of coffee spiced up with Revelton's Whiskey Cream and Liqueur. Their cream liqueur is made from a 3-year-old Iowa corn bourbon whiskey with a cream and notes of chocolate and honey. Wow, does that not sound like the perfect way to begin a day watching your favorite team dominate on the field? Then after the game, sit back and relax with one of a kind honey old fashioned with Revelton's Honey Whiskey. Oh, and something new and exciting is on the horizon. So be sure to check out all their updates on their Twitter or Instagram page at ReveltonDC.
Welcome back. Hope you appreciated that word from our sponsor. Actually, during the break, we were just discussing what we were all drinking. Megan, actually a fan of the Revelton, very much excited to see that she's not just a shill for us, that she actually is enjoying that. I do want to take a second to thank the folks that came down to visit us at the Three Beards launch party. What day is this? What years? Was that a week and a half ago? What was that, Chris?
It was a week and a half ago. It was almost 2 weeks ago tomorrow.
Okay. See, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for coming down there. Really excited. We really hope that you guys are enjoying what we're bringing, not just with Old Man Strength, but you're checking out our other pods of Bitter Units and Fill in the Blank with Anya. The Sigh of the Storm Cyclone Reaction Show, I think, is just fantastic. If you're not listening to what George and Marcus and Brent are bringing you, please go ahead and give that a listen. WS Twin Warriors on YouTube and a whole lot of other things. So more to come. So please stick with us for those as we announce anything else that is going on as well. So Meg, I assume you're familiar with every single one of those, and you're an avid listener, right?
Nonstop, yeah.
That's what I
have to tell you though, Chris, I listened to the episode with the twins.
Yes.
And your kick-ass wife.
Who, thank you.
Like, I'm pretty sure we would be best friends. Like, she just sounds amazing. And I do want to check out their content because I think they are a hoot and a half.
That they are. We have not recorded for a while. We were supposed to. They went back to college, so I said we normally would do it on Wednesday nights, and I was like, "You guys take your MacBooks to school. We'll send the Zoom. You guys will be in your rooms, and we can record on Wednesday nights." And all day last Wednesday, Josh was texting me. Are we recording tonight? Yeah. Can we do it tomorrow? No, I don't have time to do it. I have editing and things like that we have to do. So finally I got him. I was like, what's the matter? Like you're all about this, but all of a sudden you don't want to record.
Yeah.
I'm nervous because mom's not in the house and I am afraid I'm going to mess up and then I'm going to say something wrong or one of my roommates is going to walk in. And I was like, okay, would it be better if we still recorded at home? We just did it on Sunday mornings before you left. And then I can record Sunday afternoon, or I can edit Sunday afternoon. Oh, that would be so much better. So that's what we're going to do. But he was all nervous being back at school, and then and then him not, his network wouldn't work or whatever else. So
I gotta say, but both of those two seem like they definitely have a very active social life at school. They seem like they're having a good time. Maybe a little bit of a too good of a time from what they told me.
I mean,
down in Osceola the other week.
Jordan called tonight, said he kissed a girl. So that's all I heard. That's all I heard on the call. So, and then he said he had to go take a shower. So that's all I know.
So it did not go well.
Right? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure.
I hope those two aren't related.
I was like, yeah, Jordan, you typically should take a shower before you kiss a girl.
Oh no.
That's the first time we were at a Special Olympics thing and up in Ames, and I think he was like 17, and he walked back and he sits down next to me and he goes, "Girl just kissed me." It's like, Jordan, what? What girl? I don't know. Well, what do you mean you don't know? You don't know her name? No, I don't know her name. Hey, well, that's usually step one, dude, is you get their name.
I don't know, man. I went to college. That's not always step one. I'm going to be honest with you.
Don't ask me for a list.
I've made some choices. We'll just leave it at that.
Well, thank you, Meg. I will let my wife know that you said that.
I think that should be. I think everybody should go and listen to that episode. I was so impressed with her advocacy, and like I can't fathom having twins and having them be as sick as they were. And she was talking about using the dropper to feed them drips of formula to try and get any food in their little bodies. And I was like bawling. Like I can't fathom it. And then just to hear she's just so positive about everything. Like it would be so easy to be, to feel jaded about the fact that people didn't listen to her when she knew something was wrong. Right. And I'm certain that there have been bumps in the road with IEPs, and like you talked about things with, having special needs children who need job opportunities and continuing education and living arrangements and all of those things. Like I just think for her to be taking on some more roles of kind of getting that information out there is so awesome. And I think she's a really good mouthpiece for that.
Well, thank you. I will say one thing in that one story that I don't know that we told, that she told me when I first met her, and when the boys were really little and she was on her own, she did not sleep in her own room for the longest time. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I was so afraid that they would crawl out of their crib and get into things or whatever, that I moved my mattress in their room and would sleep on the floor in their room by the door, so that I knew if they got up and crawled over me, I would wake up.
Oh my gosh. And
I just can't think of things like that and think, and to your point, she was always positive. She was always genuine. There was never, I mean, there'd be times where I would come home and I would have a bad day, or I would say something and she would be like, well, like, no, this is not the time for you to be positive, right? Like, I need you to wallow in the mud with me down here a little bit, all right? But it's just not in her nature. You know what I mean? So, and she was the perfect mother for them. So
absolutely.
No, I mean, putting up with you alone, that woman exudes patience.
Amen to that.
Yeah, no joke.
No, absolutely.
Hey, I'll have you know, I'm a gem.
She did seem rather fond of you, I will say.
She did. I know, right? That wasn't even the whiskey talking.
Yeah, more podcasts with her, because I thought she was fantastic.
Well, let's go ahead, Tim.
No, I was gonna say, I'm sure she's going to love that idea that we bring her on even more often.
As she said before, she's like, I don't even listen to the ones you're on. I can pretty much say whatever I want.
Well, I told her last Friday, I was like, yeah, no, I want everyone in the world to listen to our podcast except the people that I know. So I get what she's saying. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of moms, One of the things that kind of struck me with you this last few months was your emotional roller coaster of sending your oldest to Iowa State.
Yeah.
What's that been like? I mean, I know you're going to football games. I'm sure you probably get to see him on football days or whatever, but I know when Caitlin went up there, it was nice to see her experience some of the things I experienced, but there were also times where I would go home and I'd be sad that she wasn't home.
Well, okay. So he's actually living at home.
Okay.
He's here. So
Yeah.
we're like, as we speak, he's in my house, which has helped a lot. Obviously, I didn't, he's not like gone. But yeah, just having, I'm emotional every year. I'm emotional on their birthdays. I'm emotional on the first day of school. Like, the passage of time goes, as you both know, in the blink of an eye, and you just imagine it lasting so much longer than it does. And then before you know it, they're grown-ups and out on their own. So it is really, really nice to have him here. We'll see how long that lasts. Living costs are insane.
Yes.
Yeah, that was something I wanted to get into a little bit more.
On top of the cost of school alone. And he is a very fortunate and very, very bright, and got a really nice scholarship from Iowa State. And he's paying for his own school, and he would also need to be paying for his own room and board. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I just don't have that kind of money sitting around.
Sticker shock was when I remember when Caitlin, when we were in the orientation and they told us what it was a semester, my jaw dropped.
I don't think that people understand. Like, I think you hear that it's expensive and you're like, oh yeah, it's expensive, right, whatever. Yeah. But like, when you put that into perspective, when you put that into, let's say we're going to compare that to my annual income.
Right.
That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, when you posted on Twitter what like the cost of all of these things are, and I did the math, and I was like, that's like $600 a month just for rent, yeah. And that right, and that's renting one room that you're sharing with someone else.
Right. And there's no air conditioning. That was the cheapest option for a room.
Right, and because I had brought that up to my folks who went to college, understand the cost, and the three of me and my siblings went through school, and they understood. It's like, well, yeah, but that includes other things. Like, no, Dad, that was just that cost. I'm not even talking about all of these other things on there. I think, I mean, I graduated 20 years ago, and what I know I paid
years ago. Wow.
Yes, 200 years ago.
He's the oldest one on here.
Yeah, but I remember getting a 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate, walking distance to campus. And combined, we were paying like $750 a month. It was like nothing. And we each got our own bed. We got air conditioning. We got a balcony we could hang out on. We had parking. We had a kitchen. We had all of these other things. And just to see how much it is, it's ridiculous to me that whenever we get into these conversations about student loan forgiveness, that people don't seem to understand that the cost of college has far outpaced. And you don't even have to talk about minimum wage. Just talking about, what people could cost of living, right? Like or like what people make. Starting salaries. Sure, starting salaries when I got out were in the 20s, and now they're in the 40s and 50s. But still, just to be able to survive because of all of these things, it's insane.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I have a lot of issues with it. I think, first of all, I think it's completely insane that we're expecting 17 and 18-year-olds to know what they want to do for the rest of their lives. Yeah. And there's no safety net for changing your mind. There's just more money, and that's it. That's the only answer. And that feels wildly unfair. And to be hired in any kind of a profession or a career that is going to be something that you worked for, that you studied, you have to have a degree. You have to have a degree.
Yeah.
There's no other route really to, and I'm sure someone could prove me wrong, but that's that's a case of one. I'm talking big picture, that, if you, I couldn't go, well, maybe I could now because of the teacher shortage, but with a 4-year degree, I can teach. But I couldn't have done that without that. There's no other route to that. There's no other route to having a professional career. That's it. So if it's the only way and it's a requirement, why the hell are we charging people this amount of money? And keep in mind, this is an in-state school for this kid. Like, there were people commenting on that tweet that said it's going to be $28,000 a year for tuition alone for my daughter to go to this school, because it's the only school that has the thing she wants to study or whatever, and we're making it work. And it boggles my mind. It boggles my mind that there's not a better solution. And you're right, it's completely outpaced. It's like so out of control. And I don't know how to staunch the bleeding with this.
Right.
So he is living at home, and I don't have $10,000 a year to hand him to go and live on Iowa State's campus. I just don't. But I do have a bedroom with his bed in it, and I have a fridge full of groceries and air conditioning, so he can stay here.
So how's he? What does he feel about all of that?
So we had a lot of conversations about it, because he is a lot like my husband and almost logical to a fault. And I almost always lead with emotion and feelings and my heart. And I said to him, I'm very worried that you're going to miss out on that dorm life that I remember so fondly, that, those were some of the best years of my life, living on my own for the first time. But you're kind of in like a secure area where everyone's in the same boat. You're all kind of trying things out for the first time.
It's like an extended summer camp type of thing, right?
It is. Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
But you're just kind of figuring out how to be a human being. And, you kind of make a new family while you're there. Like I look back on the years that I was an underclassman at Iowa State, living in Camden Towers. What's up, Wallace Wilson?
I dated a girl from there.
Wait, what's your name again?
I'm well before your time, Meg.
So I said to him, I'm worried that, you can't get it back if you decide to live here for this year and skip over the dorms and whatever. Like, that's not an experience that you ever get to really have again. I can tell you, as a 40-year-old, I'm not living in a building full of other 40-year-olds, partying together and figuring out life together. That doesn't happen.
No, that's usually called a halfway house, but yeah.
Let me jot that down. And he said, yes, you're right. Or I could save thousands and thousands of dollars. And that to him was it. When we went to orientation and walked around, he did say, it might be kind of nice to live here. But I mean, who doesn't walk around Iowa State's campus and fall immediately in love? It's beautiful. You want to stay there. Like, I understood kind of his feelings, but for him, the logic of the money savings completely won out. And that's just the kind of kid he is. It's the kind of thinker he is. And he has worked really hard to save, to be able to afford to go to school. And, he said, if I live on campus and use money for that, then that's basically another year of tuition that I have to somehow, earn. So
sure,
it just made more sense for him to stay here. So I think he's feeling good about it. He's a little irritated with the commute and gas prices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys can talk about gas prices. When I was down in Iowa the other weekend, I couldn't believe how insanely cheap gas was.
Oh, really?
It was like a whole $1 cheap. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate his perspective. I don't think, it's something I've got 2 nephews that are at Iowa State right now, and they all seem to have a lot better head on their shoulders than me or any of my friends had about thinking about those things. And you're right. Those are experiences that you can't get ever again in your life. But there's a part of me now that kind of wonders if that's like something that just our generation considers to be a rite of passage that maybe isn't really the thing. First of all, dorm life has kind of dwindled. More and more students don't live in dorms, and the way dorms are, and Iowa State has moved to change a lot of their dorms to be more apartment style, and all these like the entire experience has kind of changed, but also just the boy, I wouldn't change my experience on campus for anything except for you know what, if you gave me $10,000 extra, I think I would change my mind very quickly, right?
Had someone said that to me when I was 18, I might have gone, ooh, you know what, I'll take that 10,000 and I'll go ahead and live at home. But we live close enough that he can commute to Ames pretty easily. My mom and dad live in Ames, so if there was ever a bad blizzard that came through and he doesn't want to drive home, he has an option to stay with my mom and dad. My dad would drive through anything to go and pick him up and help him out. He locked his keys in his car one day. I'm sure he loves me telling that story. And so I think, he's learning lessons. We're figuring it out. I would like to maybe read some texts on parenting your adult children when they get home, just to make sure I'm not fucking it up. But
let me tell you, it's a lot harder to do it my way than to do it your way, because when Caitlin came back for student teaching, she had been on her own basically for 3.5 years. She, was in the dorms, was on, she lived in an apartment. She did her own thing. And during the summer she worked when she lived here. So it wasn't no big deal. But that last semester, like it would be like 7:30, 8 o'clock, and she'd come upstairs. She's like, all right, I'm leaving. And I'd be like, where are you going? And she's like, well, I'm going out with so-and-so or whatever. And I was like, what? You got to work in the morning. You got, instantly dad kicks in. You got to do this. And, you're going to leave the house at 8:30 at night, and there's, and finally at one point she said, Dad, if I was in Ames, you wouldn't have any idea what I was doing. And I'm like, okay. She's like, it's kind of a transition for me to move back in and have rules. And I said, well, you want to know what's transition for me? Is the fact that we haven't had any kids for 6 months, and now all of a sudden we have you back. And now I don't know what to make for dinner because you might be here, you may not be here. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So then one night, Stacy and I went to dinner, and we didn't tell her where we went. And she got home and she called us, and she's like, where are you guys at? And I was like, what's the matter? If you were in Ames, you wouldn't know where we were.
Oh,
oh, I mean, it's the same thing, right? It's a transition. It's a transition of things that you got to give them their space or whatever. And then, but also, they still have certain rules or whatever. Yeah. I was thinking when you were talking about what it was costing, I can remember for room and board and tuition when I went as a freshman, it was $2,500 a semester. That's, my first year and a half was paid for by my dad until I, got removed for academic probation. And then that was, my dad was like, I'm not paying for it anymore. So I student loaned it and paid the rest of the way and whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I worked for my dad. Long story short, I took a lot of deferments, not because I wanted to, but that was just the financial situation I was in for a long time.
Sure.
That student loan company did not lose money on me. And I paid every dime of it that was owed, plus interest, plus deferments, plus whatever. I think I finally paid it off, I don't know, 2 years before Caitlin started college. I mean, that was a long time. Mm-hmm. So when I hear arguments of people being against student loan forgiveness, I can see their side of the argument, that it is expensive and that should be fixed and things like that. And I 100% agree with that. But I also know that there are a ton of kids out there that didn't borrow that money thinking, well, I'm going to get a free ride here pretty soon, so I'll just borrow all this money and then let somebody else pay for it. They borrowed it because that was the situation they were in. And to your point, Meg, you're asking 17 and 18-year-old kids to make a financial decision that will affect their next 15 years of their lives financially. We don't ask 17 and 18-year-old kids to make any other decision that severe.
No, I thought like dancing in public was okay for as a 17-year-old kid. I thought,
Right.
like I wouldn't trust 17-year-old me to do anything.
Right.
Acceptable.
Right. FYI, 40-some-year-old Tim dancing in the streets isn't exactly an acceptable decision either, by the way.
Well, no, it's not. It doesn't stop me.
So, but I'm okay.
I am pro dancing in the street.
All right. Well, why does that not
you
shock
haven't seen
me?
me do it, because then I think that would change your opinion on that very quickly.
I guess my point is just because I suffered and I had a hard time doesn't mean that I should be okay that somebody else doesn't have to go through that.
I thought
the whole world has evolved to make life better for other people. I mean, that would be just like me going, oh, when I had cancer 5 years ago, I don't want to take those chemo drugs because the people that had the same type of cancer 20 years ago didn't have that advantage, and it wouldn't be fair for me to take it.
Right. Or you saying that someone who is diagnosed today shouldn't benefit from the last 5 years of technology that have
right.
That doesn't
right.
Make a lick of
that
sense.
Doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
No, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
I think in general right now we have, I don't know, there just seems to be a lot of people sure have an awful lot of opinion on everyone else's life.
Amen.
I feel like that's going to be a much larger conversation.
Yeah, no, I'm not opening up an entire can of worms, but I mean, like, well,
I'm not saying we don't talk about it.
I say, Meg is a teacher, and I can tell you that. So, I am a co-parent with my child, and I do not live in my daughter's school district, so I don't get to vote for school board members.
Okay.
Even though some of them are QAnon crazy, whatever. Like, I don't get a say in all of that. But I do know that there are an awful lot of parents that sure seem to want to have opinions on what teachers should be doing. That is exhausting. And I don't remember, even the most active member of the PTA sure did not seem like he or she felt like they had a strong voice in the classroom, whether that be at the college level, at the second grade level, at the whatever. And I don't know when that switched, I guess, that suddenly now, and not to say that parents shouldn't be engaged and shouldn't be activists for their kids and shouldn't be involved or whatever, but I don't get where that changed.
Right. No, I agree. Well, and I've got a little bit of whiplash because during the quarantine, teachers were the heroes, right? We were busting our asses to continue to provide education to kids, even though we were doing distance learning, and look how we can adapt and look what we can do. And all of a sudden parents were like, holy shit, this is a hard job and I can't do it. And schools need to reopen. And we were like, yep, they sure do. Like, let's do everything we can to make that possible and safe for everybody.
Don't make my kid wear a mask.
and then it's almost like that was the catalyst, right? It was almost like, we're going to come back, but now we are full of opinions on everything you're doing all of the time. And we don't have to wonder why people are leaving teaching, right?
That's right.
There's no question why there's a shortage of teachers. Had this been the way that people felt about teachers when I was looking at a future career, I might have shied away. Like, it's not a job that's respected. It's a job that people think needs to be, have surveillance throughout the day, that parents can watch from a live feed in the classroom at all times. Like,
but at the same time, we should probably give you a gun.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Like, if I let myself take on those, like you said, everyone's having an opinion about how people are living their lives and doing their jobs. I don't know that I could get out of bed in the morning, honestly. Like, when I talk about being a Pollyanna and being an optimist, I think that has served me well in doing the job that I do. I think people have a weird perspective on school too, because everybody went to school. So everybody thinks they understand the gig, we all were there. So we all think, well, I know how this should work and I understand it because I was a student, and that's just not the case. So,
Well, tonight was apparently was curriculum night at my wife's school, where parents got to come in, learn about the curriculum, things like that. She did not have to be there tonight. She got a call from her teaching partner. They split it into 2 sessions because they didn't want to have a bunch of people in there all at once and so on. Her teaching partner called her after the first session, said 2 families showed up. And when she left in between sessions, the parking lot was empty for the next one.
Yep.
Because this whole, I want to know what my teacher's teaching and so on and so on. And we've had that for years. It's called teacher conferences.
What's it called, Chris? Can you say that again, please?
The non-whiskey induced version of that verbiage. You know, I hate you right now, right? Parent teacher conferences.
Yeah, no.
How about that?
You're right. Because I think that's one thing that we did see over the pandemic is a lot of those school board meetings where people were going off.
right.
Half of those people that were going off didn't actually have kids in the school district or whatever. But
Sure.
the idea that I don't want some trans critical race whatever being taught in my school, which isn't right, but
Right on.
B, could you just get more engaged in your kids' ability to read?
Right.
I will say, I would like to go on the record and say that I feel incredibly well supported by the families that I teach and my administration where I'm currently at. I have gone through bad administration, and those were some harrowing years. And we are in such a good situation right now. Like, that is a make or break for sure, to know that your first line of defense is that superintendent that's going to stick up for you and knows that you're good at your job and that you're doing the things that you need to do and that you're teaching because you love kids. And if it could just always be that simple, that would be great, but it's not. So
No, I get it. And I will also say on my own end, I'm a sensitive parent too, and I worry, and I've never been critical of my daughter's teachers or whatever, but I have been, I want to understand what the environment is that she's in. So
absolutely.
Right?
And I absolutely understand wanting to know and even just kind of be a fly on the wall sometimes, because they're your babies and you want to see how they're doing and how they're interacting. And it's interesting. It's fascinating. They're your favorite people. I get that. But our doors aren't closed,
Right.
Yeah.
My email is always open. I'm constantly communicating with families. So, yeah. It's
excellent. Well, no, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that we do have to take another break here to grab a word from our sponsor, but we have a lot more that we have not even gotten an opportunity to talk with you about. So more to come with Meg when we come back.
Are you in the market for a new house and unsure of the mortgage process? Want to know that you have someone looking out for you? Kyle Lehman from Wintrust Mortgage is a down-to-earth, knowledgeable lender who can be there for you in your corner. He can work with you in any of the 50 states and is just what you need to expand your home search. Kyle will work with you through the entire process with little to no work from you. Take the worry of the mortgage process out of the equation so that you can focus on looking for your dream home. Contact Kyle at www.wintrust.com/Kyle-Lehman or call him at 515-473-0546.
I can't believe I don't hear angry stomping.
Oh, it's that bad?
Well,
I know. Yeah, they're down by a lot, right?
They're only down 3, but
14-17
right now.
Oh, okay.
Not terrible.
Well, the way they played last week, they sure looked a lot better than I thought they were going to be this year. So
They never play well against the Chargers, and I don't.
The Chargers defense is legit. They are really good.
But have you seen Patrick Mahomes?
I have. I'm a Bears fan. I don't really know
I
what
am
good
too. I'm a
quarterback.
Bears fan.
I don't really know what good quarterback play looks like for a
I
long
was born
time.
and raised a Bears fan, and then my son loves the Chiefs, so now we've taken on the Chiefs too. So Bears and Chiefs.
It's funny, when I was still married, my wife and I went down to Kansas City where her parents live, and they were Chiefs season ticket holders. And we went to, it was just a preseason game, but it was Chiefs Vikings. And before we went into the stadium, my wife said, just so you know, I'm gonna root for the Chiefs because I'm here with my parents. And by the second quarter, every time the Vikings did something good, then she was like cheering and getting loud and getting obnoxious. And I was like, okay, that really lasted long.
Are you a Vikings fan, Tim?
So I have lived up here for 19 years now, and it probably took me a good 5 or 6 years before I embraced being a Vikings fan. I didn't grow. I think I kind of grew up like, where are the Vikings? Because I have like an uncle that was a Vikings fan.
Okay.
So I always kind of followed them, but I wasn't like a really big Vikings fan. And I came up during like the Mike Tice years and the Dante Culpepper years and all this terrible things and the post Randy Moss and all of that. So I didn't really care. And then slowly but surely, when it's the only thing you can watch on TV and the only thing you can hear on the radio, you just kind of
bore you down.
It just kind of becomes part of who you are, even though they are perpetually underperforming and perpetually letting people down. But I mean, I think that I'm a Cyclone fan, so I spent 20 whatever years learning to build up that, getting used to getting used to it did. It eventually felt very familiar. Yeah, like Twins, very easy to be a Twins fan, even though they have also disappointment, but I've seen 2 World Series in my lifetime with the Twins. Timberwolves, I saw Fred Hoiberg play up here when I lived here, so that was enough to make me a Timberwolves fan.
Yeah.
Than the Vikings. So, but I get to cheer on Kane. See him do well. I thought he still got snubbed for the Pro Bowl last year. I know he didn't get enough returns, but he had a better average return. He had more return yards than one of the Pro Bowl picks anyway. Like, I don't get how he didn't get that, but yeah. Anyway, so all right, let's jump back in here. Let's go ahead and get this thing wrapped up. Welcome back to Old Man Strength. In case you have forgotten what you are listening to, this is Old Man Strength, a podcast of Three Beards Media. We continue to have a lot of exciting things going on. Chris, anything you want to talk about in regards to what we have going on with Three Beards?
Well, you mentioned the Sigh of the Storm, the new Cyclone Reaction podcast. George Trice, Marcus Pfizer, Brent Curvey. So they are up and running and super excited for that. They've been doing well. They've got some new equipment, so their audio is much better now, and it's doing really, really good numbers, I think. So we're super excited about that. And then I think we are planning for a fundraiser sometime around Thanksgiving. So we'll have more information about that. So we're going to do a little combined Old Man Strength Bitter Units, Three Beards Media fundraiser. So super excited for that.
Absolutely. So we really appreciate you guys checking all of that out. And once again, you're already listening to us, so you know that we're on Spotify, Stitcher. I don't know. Maybe you found us through something else. Maybe you found us through some bootleg website that hosts us, which I'm sure totally happens. But anyway, please go ahead and check out all of the Three Beards Media podcasts wherever fine podcasts are found. So, Meg, we've kind of covered a little bit of the gamut tonight. Whether that be Iowa State sports, whether that be teaching, whether that be the exorbitant cost of college. But one of the reasons we wanted to have you on here is we also just wanted you to kind of be able to talk about, give you a forum for some of the things that have been on your mind. So I'm going to just throw this right out here as a question. What has been on your mind?
Oh, golly. Well, I think kind of what Chris was alluding to before we started recording was what happened to Eliza Fletcher, the female who was out running and was murdered in the wee hours of the morning. I believe she was in Memphis. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
And it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm gonna try not to get emotional. I saw a lot of things that said that I think read as sort of some victim blaming in that situation. Like, well, she was running at 4:30 in the morning. Like, what the hell are you doing out running at 4:30 in the morning? And I can tell you exactly what she was doing out running at 4:30 in the morning. That's the only time that a mom of two little kids has for a second to do anything for yourself. That's it. That's the only time. And for her to be on a run, she was doing something for her mental health. She was doing something for her physical health. She was doing something that mattered to her. And it's just so horrible to think about. And I have gotten back into running recently, just like the end of last year. And it has been such a nice escape for me. Just, thinking about mental health, thinking about keeping myself as healthy as I can be, especially, I'm 40 now, and, knowing that I'll wake up with new aches and pains every day. And maybe running is the wrong thing to do.
God knows I stopped doing it.
I've always been really active. I like anyone can tell you, I'm kind of an Energizer bunny, and I go all the time, and I do a ton of working out, and I love to go for long walks. It's been like a great workout for me for a long time. And it was getting to the point where I just realized, like, my heart rate isn't getting up very high when I'm going for walks, no matter how fast I go, going as fast as I can. And it's not really counting as like cardio, because my heart rate's not getting very high. And going for those long walks got me through the pandemic. Like, yeah. I really struggled through the closures in 2020. I realized how much my job really is my identity, and how much it really means to me. And that if I couldn't do that, I didn't know really my purpose, which maybe sounds really overdramatic, but it's truly how I felt. But I don't know that in the moment I even could have told you that's how I felt. I just knew I felt an overwhelming sense of dread, which I think all of us really did. I was gonna
say, I think overwhelming sense of dread has been kind of the
the theme of our life.
The central theme.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love music, like, more than maybe anyone alive, and I couldn't listen to music. There was too much feeling when I would go for walks with music on. So I would listen to podcasts or audiobooks, and I would walk, and I would just walk for hours every day. And it completely got me through that time. And so then I have sort of recently switched to running at different periods in my life. I was a really good runner when I was young, and it has just been so fun. I know that sounds dumb, but it's been so fun to get back into running and to see how fast I can improve on something that I didn't think at 40 I would get back into this. I didn't think that this was ever going to be something that was really accessible to me again. And I remember, so I was running outside in December. Like, it just happened to be the time of year that I was kind of getting back into it. And the sun goes down in Iowa at 5 o'clock, 4:30 on December nights. So I would just run up and down the block in front of my house because I was scared. I was scared to go and run in the dark. And I was just always a little pissed. Like, I always had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about being stuck running just back and forth in front of my house. And I would rack up miles just going back and forth. But I didn't want to get too far away from home because, I've had scary things happen. I've had people follow me on walks. I've had men leave me notes and hit on me at the gym. Like, even the gym that's supposed to be a getaway and a sanctuary. You know,
Mhm.
I've gone to change my shoes at the end of a run, and I've had a note in my shoe giving me a phone number and asking me to call. And while that feels not super threatening, I've also had an experience where that has crossed a line into very threatening.
Mhm.
Um, I had an experience on Twitter several years ago where a very innocuous seeming conversation about Cyclone football crossed lines and turned into something inappropriate. And as soon as I shut that down, it turned into a stalking situation. There's not really a better word for it. It
Mhm.
was a stalking situation. I started getting emails at work. And that's when I stopped putting my last name on everything. Um, Let that be a lesson to us all. If your last name is out there, people can find you and they know everything about you. All someone needs is your last name, and they know where you live, and they know where you work, and they know about your family. Um, that was incredibly scary. And so I think I kind of have my radar out a little bit for creeps. And so uh, just to have something like running that I feel like has given me so many great things, like hitting goals and feeling confident and feeling happy. And you know, if I'm going through shit, going for a run is so meditative, and it so helps me sort out my brain, and or even just shut it off for a little while. And to think that I could go out for a run to and I'm not hurting anyone, I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm going out to do something that the half of the country doesn't have to think twice about doing, that I could be at risk. And it makes me sick. It makes me sick to my stomach. And I have some handheld pepper spray that's coming, so I can go. I have like some reflective things that I'm wearing. I have a light that I put on my back. Those things aren't going to stop me from getting attacked. Um, and it's the days are getting shorter. And so pretty soon for me to get to go out, spend time outside doing something that I love, it's going to be dark and I'm going to be at risk. And if something happened to me, how on earth could I be to blame for that? For, you know, for taking time for myself and um I just there's something about the victim blaming that just makes me sick to my stomach, because I just think we're already in such a dangerous culture for women, and the value that we do not put on women's lives and women's health and women's well-being. And then as soon as you have an activity that brings you some kind of peace and well-being, now it's too dangerous and you shouldn't do it. And God forbid you ever would go in a sports bra, because then you're somehow asking for it. And it just makes me really sick to my stomach.
It,
Um,
it's amazing to me. So like certainly like as parents, we always teach our kids to be aware of their surroundings, to be aware of where they are, to you know, I never want my daughter to feel unsafe, and I never want to breed a culture where she has to like be constantly living in fear, but I also want her to be like conscious of her surroundings and know what's going on. But somewhere along the line that shifted it into blaming now victims because they weren't, oh, you weren't aware enough, you weren't smart enough, you weren't whatever. No, you gotta, like, if someone gets attacked or violated, they're attacked or violated. It doesn't matter whether or not they were paying attention, not paying attention, whatever. They didn't ask for it to happen, and I think I'll never personally understand that mentality.
Right. Well, and I think when something like that happens, probably the stupidest thing you can do is check any kind of social media. Like, people are going to have horrible things to say. And, um, you know, I wanted information because she was missing before they found her. And I was kind of keeping up with it a little bit to kind of see what was happening. And so I came across some shitty comments that, you know, I try to avoid, honestly. Like, I just carry things like that with me. And I have trouble letting them go, like I think a lot of people do. And so I was kind of avoiding the whole trying to avoid the shitty comments, and of course came across them. And yeah, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating to think that that I need to change my completely healthy, normal, active lifestyle because it's too dangerous. I do think that the chances of getting attacked are probably very low. Like, I don't have the stats off the top of my head. I don't know, but I do think they're probably pretty low. But I just think that the way we respond when something like this happens is really frustrating. And you'd like to think that we've come further than that as a society, and that we, you know, you're right. We absolutely do need to tell our kids to be careful. I absolutely did. We had lots of talks about, you know, body safety and making safe choices, and all the, you know, how we don't keep secrets and all those kinds of things, you know, all those things you need to talk to your kids about. And, you know, there are absolutely things that I do to make sure that I'm being as safe as I can. But then, God damn it, when I go to the gym where it's well lit, it's a block from my house, my husband is there,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm getting hit on at the gym. Like, again, that did not turn into a scary situation, but just the fact that I was there working out, I'm not sending a signal to come and talk to me.
Right.
You know, like, just let people do what they want to do, or I'm going to fucking pepper spray you in the face.
Meg, do you
I'm
know?
gonna make that into a t-shirt.
Right?
Just let
I
people
know.
do what they want to do, and I'm gonna fucking pepper spray you in the
Pepper
face.
spray you in the face.
I love that.
There's another podcast that I really love, and they always say pepper spray first and apologize later. And that is going to be my motto. So
I love it.
I would maybe stay at least 6 feet away from me.
That's it. Do you know why I asked you to come on here, Meg?
No.
I asked you to come on here because I think that not only do you have important stuff to say about that kind of stuff, and that women need to hear that, but I think the bigger audience that needs to hear that is men, whether they're husbands or fathers or sons, because we also have an obligation to raise our men and raise our kids in a respectful way. You've probably had hundreds of conversations with your daughter about safety and whatever. I'm sure you've had the same amount of conversations with your son about how to treat women and how to be respectful and what's right and what's wrong. And I think that there's I'm not blaming anybody, but I think that there's a lot of men out there that don't have those conversations. And as a dad of two young boys, and as a dad of a daughter, that's kind of what I've tried to instill in them, is to treat women with a certain amount of respect and boundaries. It's absolutely deplorable that you can't go to a gym and have a simple workout without feeling uncomfortable. That's something that people need to hear. So that's kind of why I asked you to come on. I mean, obviously we've had a good, fun conversations about a lot of things, but I think that you have a powerful voice to talk about those things. And I guess I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't feel like I'm being very articulate, because I really am feeling pretty raw about it still. I went for a run today right as soon as I got home, because it was still light out, and I just find myself changing things about my habits and what I'm doing because I feel scared. And whether that's justified or not, maybe that's silly. Maybe the chances of something bad happening to me are quite slim. I've been, walking and running around this town for years, and other than a couple incidents that made me feel unsafe, I think I've got pretty good neighbors and people around me, and maybe that's silly, but it's how I feel, and I feel scared. And it's like I said, the days are going to get shorter, and we're going to have to be outside when it's dark. And if a 4:30 workout is what you can do, then I hope that you can find a way to do that in a way that makes you feel safe and then doesn't make you feel like you are in any kind of danger. I think running at 4:30 is insane, because 4:30 is for sleeping. But if that's the time that works for you, then I hope that you can do that, because I know from my own past struggles that finding time in the day for yourself, especially as a teacher and a mom who spends most of her day meeting the needs and wants of other people, to be able to eke out time is, I will say, when my kids were small, it was impossible. It was impossible to do.
Mm-hmm.
And now that they're older and they don't need me around as much, or maybe even want me around as much, I can really be creative with my time. So that's, I guess, the other kind of another thing is, when I'm posting things about working out or going for runs or those things, like, understand that that's coming from someone with a 16 and an 18-year-old kid.
Right.
And so making time for myself is now a possibility again. So you will get that time again where you can, carve out a few minutes for yourself. And I just hope that that we can feel safe about doing it, and that something like this doesn't happen again. And it will. And I think that there are probably a lot of things we can do to keep ourselves safe and hopefully prevent things like that from happening. But I think just being aware of people's boundaries and understanding that there are times and places to approach people if you are interested in someone.
Right.
Maybe the gym isn't the best place. Maybe have a conversation with someone before you slip them a note. That felt kind of threatening and kind of weird. Like, I didn't know this person other than he said hello and introduced himself and asked my name. And that was the extent of our conversation. And then to have a note in my shoe, I don't know, it made me feel really uneasy. I think understanding people's body language when people don't want to talk to you, understand that. Women especially are raised to be polite, always be kind. That means being polite. And we feel like we can't say, leave me alone, I don't want to talk to you, because then we seem ungrateful and we seem unkind, and how dare we? And I think that's really tricky too.
Well, and I think one thing, Chris and I fall victim to this too, that I think kind of gets to be like sneakily insidious, is this idea of like, well, I as the father of a daughter, or I as the brother of sisters,
right?
And I really want it to just be, no, I as a human being should give a shit about treating other people like because it still kind of gets framed into the like, well, if you have an important woman in your life, well, you don't have to have an important woman in your life to treat women with respect. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't. I know that it's coming from a positive place, right? It's coming from people like that are feeling very defensive of their daughters or their wives or their sisters or their whatever. But it almost to me, every time I see it, I don't know why it rubs me the wrong way. And it's not because it rubs me the wrong way. Like, just because, like, no, how about just as a human being, as a decent human being, I give a shit about other human beings. Why do we have to put some other standard on, well, if you have a special relationship, you're going to treat people differently? No, just treat everyone with respect. Like, I don't, it's frustrating. You get what I'm saying, right? Like, it's a challenge that it still kind of perpetuates, I think, maybe the role of difference rather than, no, just be a decent human being, please.
100%. I think, and I'll touch on this and then we can wrap up, but I think what you talked about there is just perspective, Meg. When you say things like it's only been a couple of times, but those are still way more times than what I even contemplate as a man out and going for a run. It doesn't even enter my mind.
Yeah, I don't feel unsafe. Yeah.
Right. It's the same conversation that we have. And the same feelings that I had when George Floyd was murdered, and people were trying to tell us about police brutality and so on. The odds of that happening are very slim. I mean, in my mind, I believe that the majority of police officers are good men and good women and good people, but it still happens. I don't have any idea what it's like to get pulled over and feel like there just might be a slight chance that I may not make through this just because I was speeding in a car.
Mhm.
But those are conversations that African American families have to have with their men and women on a daily basis. And I don't even understand the concept of that because it's not in my perspective. But I sympathize with that because I've heard those stories. And it's the same thing from what you talked about.
Sure, absolutely. And I think, like I said, sometimes, going out and just running up back and forth in front of my house for an hour, I'm kind of pissed. I'm kind of low level pissed the whole time because you're right. Like my husband could put on a pair of boxer briefs and go run a 10-mile loop around town at 2 a.m. And the police might stop him and ask him what the hell he's doing. But he's not in any danger. His
Right.
life is not in danger.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very tricky. It's very, very tricky because there's a line somewhere. Maybe it's very blurry, but you're right, Tim, of keeping yourself safe and knowing how to protect yourself and have those conversations with your kids. And I'll have those conversations with my 16-year-old daughter about ways to keep herself safe. And also, God damn it, why does this have to be a conversation that we have? There's no perfect answer. There's no silver bullet way to fix it and make it go away.
I know a lot of parents that have had talks with their daughters about keeping themselves safe. I don't know if as many parents that have had talks with their son about not being a dick. Honestly, I think there's some of that too.
Right. Well, and I think we have to be kind of careful too, because I don't think the person that murdered Eliza Fletcher was just a dick. I think he was a sick human being. We're talking, these extreme situations about people who are very, very mentally ill, which is a whole nother conversation.
Right.
Sure, but the person who left a note in your shoe at the gym, you know what I mean?
Yep. Right. And here's the rub. Here's the thing. I immediately am like, oh, I'm overreacting. Like maybe you meet people at the gym. I don't know. I've been married for 20 years. Like maybe that's just a thing. And whatever. And I start to play it off. And then the devil on my other shoulder, maybe it's the angel, I don't know, is like, no. Your gut is telling you something.
Right.
Your gut is telling you that this is making you uncomfortable, and you don't have to justify his behavior.
Right.
Correct.
To be kind or polite or gentle or loving or sweet or whatever. It's horseshit. You don't have to do any of that. And that's a pull that I think a lot of women probably deal with when we're dealing with the advances of men. And when it comes into the workout world, I feel extra angry because the workout world for me is where I go for clarity and alone time and peace and quiet and, some strength and some confidence. Like it's something I feel really good about. And to have anyone come and shake that, it just pisses me off. It makes me very mad. And then as soon as I catch myself going, it's probably fine. Just throw the note away. It's not a big deal. Just laugh it off, whatever. I think we all need to remind ourselves that if your gut is telling you something, you are 100% allowed to listen to your gut and let that guide your next moves and
100%.
and help yourself feel safe and comfortable. And people don't have the right to make you feel unsafe and uncomfortable, even if they did it unintentionally. They don't have the right to do that.
Yeah. Wow. So, I know I'm here trying to figure out how to put a bow on all of this entire conversation. Obviously, it's been very important conversations, getting into some territory that Chris and I don't always get into. I joke a lot about how we started this podcast during the pandemic because what the world was really missing was the opinions of two old white men. everyone has always been going, you know who just isn't heard? You know who doesn't have a voice? Old white men. Can we just have them on? But yeah,
needed to hear from you for sure.
but we it is good for Chris and I to have these conversations, but also just to help give a voice to the things that where we have a huge blind spot. So we appreciate that. Meg Boy, we have talked about everything and anything possible tonight. I do want to give you kind of an opportunity to talk about anything else, whether that be things people can do for you and teachers this school year. I have a very soft spot for that because my mom, who was a teacher, spent more of her own money on school supplies and more of her own time on like all of the efforts that are still kind of missing. So I want to give you an opportunity to maybe kind of talk about some of that too.
Do you ever feel mad at her that she spent more time with other people's kids than she did with you? Please tell me that you're not. Please tell me that
I didn't. She was a teacher before I was born. She went back into teaching when I was in like 3rd or 4th grade.
She had Tim, and she's like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Someone has to stay with him.
Well, so I have 2 older sisters. My oldest sister, Marsha, is a teacher right now.
Okay.
She has 2 different teaching degrees from Iowa State. She, from a very early age, would ask her teachers for extras of all of the assignments because she would come home and we would play school at home. I was the only 1st grader who knew multiplication. I was the only kindergartner that could write in cursive.
Yep.
It was terrible. All I ever wanted to do was play gym and recess and lunch. Those are the only things I wanted to do. And I had to learn it.
And you had bossy big sisters. I should send you my brother's name.
I was gonna say it served me very well. I graduated very they're the top of my class. Like it served me well, and I hated every minute of it.
I have a very nice picture of Caitlin. She's like, when I met Stacy, she was teaching at the school that I lived right around the corner from, but the girls were going to a different school. And when I met her, we had been dating for probably a year, and then I had transferred Caitlin to that elementary school. And so Stacy came to my house one day, and she brought a bunch of worksheets, like multiplication worksheets from school, and she gave them to Caitlin. And Caitlin proceeded to go out to all her friends in the neighborhood and bring them back. And they were all sitting in the front yard, and she was leading class and doing multiplication tables. And I have this great photo of her sitting on the stoops and all the kids sitting there. And I was like, I printed it up again for her graduation party. And I was like, yeah, you started pretty early, but it's pretty funny.
I'm beginning to notice. I think there's a trend between people who are teachers and people who are bossy as kids.
You know what? They're indoctrinating. That's what they're doing, Tim. They're indoctrinating people.
That's right. Did you see? I hate to be the person who talks about her tweets. Did you see him indoctrinating Hawkeye fans to turn into Iowa State?
Oh, I did see that. I love that. I was very happy. Yeah.
I've been working on that kid for years.
So anyway, with all of this said, Meg, is there anything that you want to share, whether or not people that can help out your classroom or just help out teachers in general?
I want to just say a huge, huge, huge thank you. And I try to say thank you for this as much as I possibly can. I don't know. I can't put into enough words of gratitude the way that Twitter, the Cyclone Twitter, and I'm sure there's some Hawkeyes in there too. I'm just gonna say, have anytime I put out a need, the way that they circle the wagons is unbelievable. So last year, there's through Scholastic book clubs, there is it's called, I think, Classrooms Care campaign that they run. And what I like about it is I'm not taking people's money. They're putting it into a Scholastic account, and then I can buy books for kids with that money. And it just Scholastic completely manages the money. I would feel a little uneasy accepting gifts or money from people. That's just a personal thing for me, which is why I don't really put out like an Amazon wish list or anything like that. It just makes me feel a little, I don't know, uncomfortable. But in this situation, it's perfect. And last year, I think I had a goal of like, I don't know, $150 maybe. It was, now it seems ridiculously low because people just came out of the woodwork and donated so much money. And I was able to give my kids last year, each kid took home probably between 15 and 20 books that they
Oh my
got.
gosh, that's
for
amazing.
And someone asked, I wasn't going to do it again because I still had some money left in that account. So I wasn't going to do it again this year. You know, it just was like, you know, that was a really cool thing, but it was probably just kind of a once in a blue moon thing. It was, you know, a neat situation, but I'm not going to push for it again. And I had more than one person reach out and say, hey, are you doing this again? We really want to donate to your classroom again. So I did it again and I made more money this year. So I have just an overwhelming gratitude in my heart. And I can't tell you how amazing it is to go on the Scholastic website and just I feel like an embarrassment of riches to just buy up books for my kids. It is the best feeling. And they are over the moon. Like they are screaming when I'm handing them new books to read. I just ordered them all a copy of The Mouse and the Motorcycle, and I'm going to start reading it to them tomorrow. It's our new chapter book. And they're all going to have their own copy and they're going to lose their minds. Like I can't even tell you the difference that makes. And we're also going to do, because I have so much money in this account, we're going to do like a family book club for the whole school. And all the families are going to get a chapter book. And we're going to do probably maybe after like spring break to kind of round out the year. Like I have plenty of money to buy a chapter book for every family in our entire school. Wow. So yeah, that has been wildly successful and just people are just amazing. Like the amount of donations that I have gotten they just blow my mind. Like I can't even put into words. So I think if you're looking to support teachers, maybe ask them to set up something like that. That is funds that go directly to buying books for kids. And what else could you possibly want? Like that's just,
right.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of teachers do an Amazon wish list for their classroom. And I think that's fantastic. Honestly, sometimes good friends of mine will just, when things are particularly muddy in the teaching profession and, you know, a gross bill is trying to pass through the house in Iowa, they'll just send me flowers and that's lovely. Like, let your teacher friends know that you're thinking of them and that you support them and you wish them the best. And I think, yeah, I feel very well supported and very well loved, and having that ability to buy books for those kids it's magic. So
we've kind of felt the same thing here. Stacy has gotten quite a few during the pandemic when all the teachers were home and they were off their little laptops or whatever. I had told Stacy, I said, I'm gonna see if I can find you a monitor to hook up, an external monitor, so you can see things a little better. And I looked online and I think I put something on Twitter that I was looking for an external monitor for my wife who was teaching from home. And Kyle Lehman, who is our sponsor at Wintrust, messaged me, Hawkeye fan, and said, hey, I've got a whole mortgage office here of old monitors. I've got about 20 monitors. Does her teaching partners need any monitors? Oh, so wow. I instantly messaged Stacy. Every single one of those teachers got an extra monitor for home to be able to help facilitate class and things like that. And then last Christmas, my wife works at a school that is 100% free and reduced lunch. She is an ELL teacher, so she works with nothing but refugee kids. And the majority of her kids live in one apartment building. They all live in different apartments, but they all are located in this one apartment building. And this family had never had a Christmas tree. And we had bought a brand new Christmas tree. So we took the old one over to their house. And my wife came home and said, you would not believe the look on their face when I dropped that Christmas tree off after school, to the point where the one little boy said, I can't wait till my mom gets home to see this tree. We've never had a tree before. And I was like, I can't even imagine that they never had a Christmas tree. So I just tweeted out my experience. I was like, my wife gave this Christmas tree, whatever else. I had 7 or 8 people message me and say, I've got an extra Christmas tree. Can we drop it off at the school so that the other kids in that building can have a Christmas tree? And they did. And it's just that kind of overwhelming. From Twitter is a pool of it can be.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of good out there as well.
Definitely.
So
definitely. Well, and hearing you say that too, another thing that comes to mind is we are always looking for, at my school, and I would imagine schools all across Iowa are looking for donations of like hats and gloves at winter time. There's always a pretty significant shortage of that. And also shoes and socks are a big thing too, that I think a lot of people don't think about. A lot of kiddos, they grow so quickly and they can't keep up with shoes, and socks just tend to go missing, I guess. And a lot of kids don't have just a never-ending source of that. So
they wear through them constantly somehow.
Yeah, exactly. So having a supply of shoes and socks around at school can really help kind of turn a kid's day around. So just another thing to think about if you're looking to help schools out, especially our public schools that could use all the love you can give right now.
Amen.
Awesome. Well, this is fantastic. I appreciate that. I certainly something very near and dear to my heart, that teachers are well taken care of. Anything else you want to shout out though?
Go Cyclones.
Perfect. I think that
is a cyclone state.
Well, excellent. Meg, we appreciate this. We have taken up far too much of your time, especially for a school night. Gosh darn it. But we are very happy that you came to chat about a little bit of anything and everything. Returning guest very much. We hope that you do come back on for yet another time on this podcast. Absolutely. We would love to have you. Listeners, you have wasted another bit of your time with Old Man Strength. We are very grateful for that. Please make sure to go ahead and check out our sponsors. Revelton Distilling Company at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa. You can go ahead and check out Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. Please check out all of the other pods on the Three Beards Media Sphere. Fill in the blank with Anye, Bitter Units, Sigh of the Storm, WS10 Warriors, and everything else that we still have to come. So just keep an eye. There might be another few people joining us to join the Three Beards family. So please take a look. And with that, we will see you guys next time.